So, making this video, those are some of my textbooks from my degree days in the background. Making this video on which degrees are what people call crappy degrees. I've seen there's quite a lot of debate in the public domain and through journalism about which degrees are crappy and what crappy degrees are, and when they should and whether they should exist or not. And there are a number of YouTube videos where people express opinions about this. Some of what they say is silly, some of what they say is misinformed, some of what they say is sensible. So the genetics book there covered my first 2 years at Aberdeen. This covered more third, fourth year. The chemistry, this organic chemistry was probably from third year onwards, second year, but I used it in first, second. I think it was more of a third, fourth year, but I used it in second year. I've used it since, and this one was really a first year, second year level book. So, but I had one general biology I got rid of by mistake years ago when I was a student. I learned a lesson: never get rid of your textbooks. But yeah, I got that one in '92, that one in '92, that one in '93, and that one probably in '95 and '94. So anyway, so in one video I've seen somebody's claiming that archaeology is a crappy degree. I find that ignorant. I don't think it's any more useless than history. Archaeology is more hands-on. Histories are... One of my grandfathers studied classics, which covers a lot of history as well as languages, like Latin and Greek. These degrees are not useless. They teach you to use your brain, to read. They teach you to think. When you write essays or do, I don't know how history works. I studied history up to about age 12. Ancient Greece, ancient Rome, and possibly. So picking up where I just left off, I had to delete files. It was the memory card was too full. So yeah, I studied ancient Egypt possibly as well. But I remember everything I was taught, a lot of it. So in these classical degrees of archaeology, history, they certainly aren't useless degrees and not stupid. I have a huge respect for them. They're both been around a very long time. Aberdeen University, where I studied, actually is, I think, Britain's oldest archaeology museum. And although their website says archaeology started there in 2007 as a research subject, that's actually incorrect. I need to talk to them about it. The first archaeological investigations at Aberdeen University go back to 1500 or something like 1502 or 1497. It goes right back to the beginning at the university. I forget whether it's 1498 or whether it's 1502, but it goes right back to the beginning. There wasn't an actual department, but there were certainly scholars doing archaeological investigations. So yeah, these teach you to read, write, assimilate huge quantities of information, think about it, discuss it. Jobs, you can go into government, teaching English in school or history. I've known people working in Scottish government with Latin degrees. So there's all kind of jobs you can go into. There's obviously education, academia, and there's a government. Companies potentially, if you want to go in as somebody who's got a brain, if you've got a good degree from a good university, somebody might be interested in business or something, but want to help the company out in other ways, but it teaches you to use your brains. Okay, somebody else mentioned in the video travel and tourism degrees. I would agree that's a silly one. I think historically people who want to go into the travel industry or tourism, they leave school and they get a job in tourism. I suppose the air hostesses and air hosts, the lads and ladies that serve you in planes, give you drinks and stuff. That's tourism. You don't need a degree to do that. It's about being interested in people and being interested in traveling. So travel and tourism, the ones I'm picking in a list I created a while ago are ones which I think either should be apprenticeships, like industrial design, or becoming a chef, or join the police. If you want to join the police or the military, you join, they train you. You don't go to college first. I've seen policing degrees which are nonsense. So either ones which should be apprenticeships, or ones which should do FE college, like childcare degrees or beauty therapy degrees, or ones which are hobbies, like surfing. There's a degree in surfing. Oh, come on, get real. Whoever creates these degrees, they obviously just don't understand the world. The academics are not in reality. I surf. People who go surfing are people who are rebellious. They're not interested in school. Well, obviously some of us are, but if you actually want to become a professional surfer, people like that aren't interested in school. They just want to surf all day. How does learning physics help? It's nonsense. Yeah, I know waves and hydrodynamics, all that stuff, but so what? The way you learn to surf is you take your board, you put a wetsuit on, you go down the beach, and when there's big waves breaking, and you learn how to stand on the board and surf. You don't have to know any physics. As I said, most people I've never known who professionally surf or windsurf are people who are rebellious. They don't want to do the mainstream, and they want to bunk off school. So surfing is nonsense. Liberal arts degrees, one I was mentioned. I actually looked that up just now. I think it's really just a modern version of the classics degrees. So classics do things like history, Latin, Greek. Liberal arts appears to do things like music, languages, art, dancing, theatre. So I don't think that's a bad degree necessarily. It's just a modern version of an old idea. Dance is a silly degree. I think that's I'm not against people going to college to study courses like dance schools, but why does that have to be a degree? What's wrong with just doing diplomas in it? Just because people have something called a degree does not make them somehow better educated. Yeah, if you do medicine or something, or chemistry or history, it probably does make a difference, because you don't tend to do a diploma in those. But for a lot of courses, things are historically, if you go back 20, 30, 40 years, 30, 40, 50 years, things used to be music college diplomas or art college diplomas or dancing school diplomas. Well, maybe not art college, but music college diplomas or business school diplomas or dancing school theatre diplomas. So I can't see the point in that being a degree. Although I do think you need to learn it at college, but I think degrees historically, if you go about 30 more years, are really about intellectual training. That's what university is, intellectual training, whereas more practical training was done at colleges or technical colleges. Photography is one which is nonsense. That's more of an apprenticeship. I suppose I'm thinking a lot of professional photographers are just self-taught, or they go and study at night class. You buy a camera and you learn to use it. Sitting in lectures isn't going to teach you that. You buy a camera and you learn to use it, and if you're any good, if you've got skill and ability, you'll progress, and I know people who have tried to sell photographs. They like photography, they've tried to take them, they tried to sell them, but they didn't go anywhere. Not because they weren't any good at it, but because it's just extremely competitive and difficult. I think magazines and newspapers will get thousands, millions of photographs sent to them. They're only going to take the best, so I think you just got to be outstanding and exceptional to succeed. And when you look at people often win photography competitions, national ones, they're often outstanding ability. So, but that's really you self-taught, and if you really self-teach, and if you really want to learn it, go to night classes. Art, history, and art, as somebody said, are stupid. Nonsense. My sister did art history. She did fine art. She did fine art actually, which is art history and hands-on art. Those are people like Leonardo da Vinci and contemporaries of his went to art college initially and did apprenticeships. I suppose historically you do apprenticeships, but art degrees are good. They're just teaching you to be creative and use your brain. And many jobs. My sister actually runs her own company, but she does still do her art and sells it. That's not a stupid degree at all. Been around. These art degrees and art history degrees have been around for centuries. As I said, people like Leonardo da Vinci and people, their colleagues, and even Turner, a lot of these people went to apprenticeships or went to art colleges. I think a lot of them got apprenticeships. Theatre degrees, it's one route. I know a bit about filmmaking. Some people, if you really want to get into become an actor, the way to do it is to do it through school, then join local theatre groups and just build up. Maybe go into theatres, maybe go into theatre school, art college. I think a lot of actors do go to art college and learn about theatre and acting. But people like that are doing it at school and they do join local theatre groups and they just keep doing it to build up experience. So I don't think that's a bad degree, but historically, going back a few decades, there probably would have been a diploma. Basket weaving? For God's sake, what's that? It's more like something you might have done at art college as part of a general arts degree, but I don't know why that would be a degree. It's just stupid. I'm not putting down art weaving as a skill. I just don't know why it has to be a degree. I've done bits of weaving when I was, or basket weaving when I was a 10, 12-year-old, and I don't think it should be a degree subject. Philosophy. Well, that's one of the older ones. It goes back to theology, and that goes back to ancient university times, going back 300, 400, 500, 600 years, so I don't know why that's a bad one. It just teaches you to think, to read, to analyse, teach you to use your brain. I think what degrees historically used to do was they taught you to use your brain in an intellectual way, analysing, thinking, reading huge amounts, writing huge amounts, far more than manual training. Film. Yeah, I think film media degrees are rather silly. There are several ways of getting into the film industry and television. A lot of journalists who work, a lot of well-known journalists who television, especially in BBC, left school. Some of them, David Attenborough did zoology, natural sciences. Some of them left school and went straight into journalism jobs. Some of them have degrees, but a lot of them actually just left school and got journalism jobs. Because it was a time when you didn't actually need a degree to do any of these things. If you could read and write and you communicate, that was enough. One of my cousins worked at a journalist, BBC, and he had no degree. They gave him a language test, a translation test, but it was in Chinese department, and he could read, he could write, he could speak Chinese, and he could translate, and he speak English, so he got the job and worked for them for 30 years. So to get jobs in the film industry, there are 3 or 4 ways. I know about this because I make films. 1, get a job as a runner making cups of tea and serving on set. And then if you're lucky, if you ask, they'll let you help do model building and stuff. 2, make short films, submit to competitions, and hopefully you'll win and try to persuade people to give you bigger budgets. 3, go to college, do a degree in it, but it's no guarantee of going anywhere. And there is a 4th way. I suppose the 4th one is to try to join a film crew as some technical member, but again, you need to start off as a runner really, or something, making tea and biscuits for people and just build up. James Cameron started off as basically a runner pretty much. He was writing, trying to make movies, but he started off just helping out, making models. Spielberg dropped out of university to get on with it. Made a short, got himself a job in TV. Somebody liked his work and offered him a job. Lucas did his degree, tried to go independent, and just battled through a system that was just very cutthroat. Francis Ford Coppola, I think he just started as a kid making films and he just built up, won competitions. Scorsese is probably a similar route. You certainly don't need a degree in film. I think the way of doing it is really just to buy a camera and just to learn to make films and try to submit into competitions. Acting goes back to theatre, not silly. Marketing degrees. Most successful people I've ever known in marketing are people just leave school to go on with it. You don't need a degree in that. It's really apprenticeship. Acting, I suppose, acting college. Interior design, probably art college is best for that. Just doing an arts degree. One of my cousins has actually done that, but she's done it as an apprenticeship. So I think getting an apprenticeship, industrial design is the same, and medicine industrial design it was. If you really want to do that, get an apprenticeship and learn the trade and industry. Degrees don't do anything. Psychology is fine. It's learning how the human brain, how people think. Language degrees like English, what's wrong with that? Teaches you to think, to read huge amounts, to write huge amounts. You learn all about the history of authors and their writing, I guess. But there's a very technical training in it, very rigorous technical. Communication degrees are stupid, I think. As far as I can, from reading, it's just about how people make phone calls and communicate. You're better off doing a proper English language degree, English literature degree, and having a rigorous training in language, I think. Police, I've mentioned that. That's a stupid one. You just going to join the police as a constable if you want to get into it, and doing an apprenticeship or join as a admin, behind the scenes person. Creative writing is a nonsense degree. Everything is on the internet or in books to write film, theatre scripts. The only best way, it's such an incredibly cutthroat world. Best thing to do is just try to write and try to sell your scripts. A degree in it is not going to gain anything. A lot of the top filmmakers anyway did their own writing anyway. So, advertising degrees apparently exist. God knows what those are supposed to be. I've seen ones also in things like I think advertising is just stupid. I don't know. I blame a lot of academics for these, but a lot of them I think are no common. I've known academics for about 25 years, and a lot of them have no common sense. They're completely unworldly, and they don't understand the world outside the university office or lab. So I don't know what an advertising degree is supposed to be. If you get a job with a company and you want to advertise, you just stick adverts up about it, sell yourself, go through television or radio or something, let the journalists do it. I've seen degrees in things like outdoor activities, which I think are junk. I actually, I should say, somebody said biochemistry degrees are stupid in the video, which I found a little bit very ignorant of them, seeing as that's what I studied. In a recent other video, they were surprised. I heard they were surprised that biology degrees are hard. To be good at biochemistry, you have to be very strong in biology, very interested in biology, very interested, very strong in chemistry. We had to have maths up to high grade, B grade to get into the Aberdeen. I would advise anyone who wants to do biochemistry to do A-level biology, chemistry, maths. You get taught physics in them anyway, but you have to be able to do calculus, and you need to be very competent in graph plotting and all that, and algebra. So, because a lot of the stuff that's come into it, even maths comes into biology. A lot of statistics comes in. I knew somebody at Aberdeen who said he got a C or something in GCSE maths, and he struggled with the statistics. I think you need a respectable. I would advise anyone at least have a B or A grade in GCSE, and if you're serious about biochemistry, go for maths A-level, chemistry and biology. So biochemistry, why is it not a stupid degree? It's a very rigorous training, at least my degree was. If you do it at a good university, it's a very rigorous, thorough training in the chemistry of living organisms, all kinds of living organisms, viruses, plants, bacteria, animals, birds, marine life, all the different kind of chemistry that goes on. It's you have to be very numerical. You teach your brain to analyze, to think. It was very intellectually demanding. There were times when we struggled to understand stuff. Teach you to work very hard, to use libraries, to write, do a lot of reading and writing. You have to write scientific reports, bring everything together. It's just a good, rigorous scientific training. The same with biology. It's get taught statistics, data analysis. It's just, for somebody to say biochemistry is rubbish, just ignorance of what it is. I bet they wouldn't be able to do one. if you have a good degree in biochemistry, putting myself aside and my struggles, most people I've classmates have looked up have either carried on in science, some I think have gone to teaching, one person became a technical patent officer or something. Some have actually left and went into medicine. You could teach, work in research. Some people have gone to publishing. It gives you a huge array of skills. It's a very rigorous training in being in scientific thinking and method, and if you're interested in sort of how the molecules that make living organisms work, then it's an amazing subject. So yeah, I did find a stupid course in outdoor activities, which I think is just basically Duke of Edinburgh award. I can't see the point of that. I found a whole list. There are things like esports, which seems to be computer game competitions, which I think is a nonsense degree. Game art, which I presume is designing graphics and computer games. These aren't degree subjects. If you really want to do that, you're probably better just learning to program, or maybe go into art college as well. There's just so many stupid degrees being created. I blame academics. Some of them I know are the culprits behind things like football coaching degrees and sports coaching degrees. And I think it's because they're unworldly and they don't understand life. They have no common sense. My MSc tutor from Nottingham said you need to have a chemical physics degree now to build chemical fires as a fireman. God, the man's thick. If you'd actually bothered to look up the fire brigade website, it would say the main qualifications are interested in people and cultures. What's the use of having a chemical physics degree to power a chemical fire? Has he not noticed that fire extinguishers have the instructions on them and say what kind of fires they're designed for? So you don't need a degree, you just read in the fire extinguisher, and if you're working in a kitchen or something, you get the appropriate extinguishers for electrical fires and gas fires and chemical fires and use them appropriately. I mean, he's just talking rubbish saying you need a degree in chemical physics. He's just talking rubbish. And other academics know said equally stupid things. So anyway, that's a brief summary of stupid degrees. So I think I don't agree. Archaeology, history, and art history, philosophy are not stupid ones. Psychology is not stupid. English languages aren't stupid, but a lot of the others are. So anyway, either because they should be, and also another category of stupid degree I think is thin chemistry degrees. Oh, I was at Napier University several years ago, 2017, for 3 months studying on a course I quit, didn't fit in, but a lot of the graduates there, both English and British and foreign, had done, their knowledge seemed to be at school level, even though they were fresh cell biology graduates, and the only explanation I have for it is that a lot of so-called... So yeah, picking up from yesterday, I'll just go through this is these are all my remaining undergraduate textbooks. I have another one I actually replaced, but so first, second year genetics, first, second year biochemistry. I got that in second year organic chemistry, but it's probably more aimed at third, fourth year. So that was really third, fourth year level. Molecular biology of the cell, molecular biology of the gene, which is really third, fourth year level. That's Stryer, which is a very famous biochemistry book. The modern versions of that have lost their quality. They're more aimed at medicine, they're not so accurate. And this is Genes 5, which is that's my book's Disintegrating. It's a huge book, and that's really a third, fourth year book. I don't mind Scotland when I say third, fourth year, which is about genes. There's about 8 versions of that, 10 versions. It's constantly being updated. So yeah, I was talking about how I was at Napier on a master's in 2017. There were a lot of graduates, fresh graduates in genetics, biotechnology, molecular biology, I think, or related subjects like possibly biochemistry. What puzzled me was the loss of their knowledge. For loss of their knowledge was at school level. And I know this because we were asked about 6 to 8 questions through 2 or 3 classes, I think 3 separate classes, and they just didn't know. Well, most of the questions were on basic school level up to first university knowledge, and most of them didn't seem to know anything. And we got asked a question on cross-reactivity, like and in anaphylactic shocks. If you eat peanut, why do some people get horrible allergic reactions? I remember a lot of guesses being made. They clearly had never been taught anything. It's actually to do with the fact that I don't really remember. I'd have to revise it, but it's to do with the fact that the protein in peanuts is the same as a protein in other kind of food or in some other part of nature, and that causes the reaction, I think. But they didn't know anything, and it makes me think a lot of universities out there, probably the new ones, and also, but I know a lot of the older ones, like Edinburgh, are guilty of this. And I think Aberdeen's also now guilty of it. They've seen what they're doing now. They're running courses, degrees, which are really just basically A-levels, or even the first year of an A-level, and they're calling it a degree. Or they're doing H&C level, H&D level courses and calling them degrees. Why would they do that? I don't know how else to explain it. Why do all these fresh graduates not know anything? When you have a degree, a proper degree, whether it's history or, say, we'll talk about this, in genetics or biochemistry or chemistry, your knowledge should be light years beyond school level. Even a basic taught undergraduate bachelor degree, your knowledge should be light years beyond school level. In depth and just breadth, it should be light years. And yet these young 22-year-olds, 20-year-olds didn't know anything. And so that's kind of what I mean by thin degrees. Too many degrees being given out, which are basically thinned down proper degrees, basically the equivalent of probably, I don't know, school level or something. And they're basically just junk. The disrespecting proper degrees, like the one I did in, say, Cambridge or Edinburgh University or St Andrews University or Manchester University chemistry degree, the disrespecting them, the devaluing the meaning of it. I've had many employers treat my degrees as though they're useless and I'm useless. Or I think it's not even, I get treated like I'm useless, and an awful lot of employers, certainly through schools, don't even seem to understand what degrees are. They think you're at school level. Some people I think have known more, but I'm certainly treated as though I'm inept and useless. At one time, if you go back 30 years, they would have just assumed you're a reasonably bright person and that you knew stuff and you're an independent worker and thinker. Something I forgot to say in the video yesterday was degrees make you an independent worker and thinker. If you go back when I was a student or before then, going to university meant if you graduated, people assumed you were an employer. If you went into government or anything, they would assume you were an independent worker, an independent thinker, and you can get on with things on your own. Okay? So if that meant, if during your work you had to go off and you found you had to go off to the library and read books or something to extract information and then bring it together and write a report, you would do it. I certainly heard stories in recent years from people working in government how a lot of graduates, and I've encountered this myself, a lot of graduates are completely useless. They can't go off independently and get on with it. Now, employers say, do you read? If you got a good degree from a good university, I think it should be assumed that you read. Maybe I should have said, no, I never read ever. Never read anything ever. I mean, just a bit of sarcasm. Anyway, that's what I mean by crappy thin degrees. Either crappy degrees, the subjects that should be done at FE colleges, apprenticeships, or